WipEout remains one of the original PlayStation's most iconic games. Released during the launch period, its style, speed, and challenge made a strong impression against the competition. The game would receive multiple sequels over the years, including 3 installments on PlayStation, as well as ports to other platforms, including Sega Saturn. And as of 2025, WipEout is also on Xbox. Wait a second, hold the phone here. WipEout on Xbox? Excuse me, I meant Anti-Gravity Racing WipEout, a completely original game from the famous developer LLS Games. So yeah, I've seen the chatter about this recently. WipEout on Xbox, you gotta check it out. Which of course prompted me to investigate and then promptly request a refund. But this isn't just another case of War God's use of child here. These actually seem to be WipEout games. So what the heck is going on, and how have the developers pulled this off? So straight away when you boot one of these games, you're treated, and I say this with air quotes, to this stunning main menu from which you can adjust various settings to suit your experience. You can enable a CRT shader, opt for wireframe mode, flat shading, or fully texture displays, as well as changing the resolution and various other settings. Oh, I almost forgot though. WipEout 1, Anti-Gravity Racing WipEout, has a beautiful CG introduction. And it looks awesome, right? Like, the direction is exactly in line with the original WipEout on PlayStation, but with modern CGI. You even get this lovingly rendered logo at the end, introducing you to the world of Anti-Gravity Racing WipEout. I wonder if I can get a t-shirt with this logo. Problem is, the feeling that I had seen this before wasn't down to similarities to the original PlayStation intro, rather, I'd seen this exact video on YouTube before. It's a remake of the WipEout introduction lovingly crafted by one Benjamin Brosdow in 2021, and that video has been lifted and included in this game. If that doesn't raise an eyebrow, however, then the music might. You see, the full soundtrack for WipEout and WipEout 3 are included here. Problem is, a lot of these tracks are licensed music, and well, I think you might be getting the picture now. But of course, we've only just scratched the surface, and by that I mean the main menu. This initial bizarre menu is just an entry point, a configuration screen if you will. Once you actually choose to start the game, the actual main menu appears. The background differs in this main menu of course, but it is effectively just the same menu as the PlayStation version. It's all stretched out and pixelated, and the buttons are replaced with Xbox buttons that, by the way, don't match the resolution of the menu itself, but it's all there. WipEout 3 is here as well. This one, known as Anti-Gravity Racing Special Edition, is in fact WipEout 3 Special Edition. The main menu is the same, except for the gray background is changed to blue. In both cases though, once you enter the game, you're presented with a widescreen image rendered at one of the available resolutions selected from that initial options menu. It's also just 30 frames per second, has noticeable texture warping, and various other display issues. So my excitement, if you can call it that, was immediately dampened. The description also suggested that you should not play this on an Xbox One 2013 model, the VCR. So of course we had to try it, and well, it seems this emulator doesn't play nice on the console at all. The performance is terrible. That is, in the Xbox Series profile mode, there's actually multiple performance options here, including one for the original Xbox, and it actually works a lot better that way, I will say. But even then, the game's still not able to fully lock to 30 frames per second. Again, it seems like the emulation might just be a bit too much for the Xbox One. A problem that none of the other newer Xboxes seem to have, by the way. Oh, did I say emulation? Yeah, if I had to make a guess, I think that's exactly what we're looking at here. That initial menu, it really is just an emulation configuration page. Things like widescreen and resolution enhancements are part and parcel of any normal PlayStation emulator. It also explains why you can't adjust any of this on the fly while the game is running. Not that there aren't emulators that can do that, mind you. Now the thing is, LLS Games actually has a very small YouTube channel where they posted some of these videos, and underneath one of them, they actually suggested that these are from the ground up remakes designed for authenticity. They actually also ported WipEout 2097, but that one has already been pulled from the Xbox store. So of course I decided to make a proper comparison then, and sure enough, the authenticity claim is true, but it's only true because this is very obviously the PlayStation version. The affine texture mapping, the textures themselves, effects, draw-in, everything about the game behaves exactly as it does in PlayStation. That doesn't mean it's identical though. They are at least using texture injection to replace key assets, something available in many emulators. This is likely how they handled the main menu and how the in-game textures were modified. I also noted the addition of render to texture being used to create moving billboards, which wasn't in the PlayStation version. I feel like it might have been there somewhere, but not in my copy anyways. Either way, it's here on Xbox. But they did scrub all references to Psygnosis and anything else licensed, as you'd expect. Of course, the Xbox version also includes those various other graphical features. In this comparison footage, I actually have the bloom feature on, and it's rendering at a higher resolution. But if you want, you can do things like flat shaded polygons, wireframe, and the like, which are actually cool and useful features that you can often do with emulation. Now, of course, there's always a potential that it's not an emulator under here. I can't actually say with 100% certainty here, but the overall presentation is very much clearly just built on the PlayStation version. There's nothing really beyond that. Now, WipEout 3 is a little more surprising. You see, this game never received a port to any platform, and on the surface it seems identical to the PlayStation version, as you'd expect from, again, emulation, presuming that's what they're doing. But I did notice something weird, which also kind of supports the emulation theory. You see, this is basically WipEout 3 Special Edition, but it runs at 30 frames per second. Why is that strange? Well, Special Edition is a PAL exclusive version of WipEout 3 with extra content that was designed for 50 Hz, so it runs at 25 frames per second instead. However, Psygnosis adjusted the speed of the game to ensure that both the NTSC and PAL versions actually run correctly, so it's not just slow in the Special Edition. With the Xbox version, however, they've seemingly taken the PAL game and bumped it up to 60 Hz, meaning that it runs at 30 frames per second now. But of course, the game isn't designed for that, so the actual game speed is higher than it should be. You can really see this with the clock, which quickly goes out of sync when compared to the NTSC version. It's just too fast. So it is technically WipEout 3 Special Edition, but it's running faster than it should. But beyond that, there really aren't that many changes to this one in comparison to WipEout 1. The textures, for instance, are pretty much untouched as far as I can tell. So on one hand, it's cool to see these WipEout games available on modern platforms, but clearly what we're dealing with here is not legitimate. Did LLS Games actually acquire the rights to WipEout and its music? I don't think so. It's also not the first time they attempted something like this. You see, if you search under their name, you'll also find games called Explosive Racing X and Burning Road X, which turns out are just two other PlayStation racing games from French company Toka. I didn't want to waste my money on these, but from what I can tell, they seem to be using the exact same techniques to bring these over to the Xbox. So we're just looking at PlayStation versions again, most likely. Thankfully, if you want to play WipEout, Explosive Racing, or any of these on Xbox, you don't have to give LLS Games any money. You can do it all and better using developer mode on the Xbox. You can install emulators on the system and get even better results, including DuckStation, which allows for major improvements to PlayStation 1 games. If you want more information on this, be sure to check out Modern Vintage Gamer's videos on the topic. He kind of goes into details of why this is such a good option, and I recommend it over buying these versions of the game. But really, while we're talking about WipEout, what I'd really like to see is something a little more robust, something like this. You see, WipEout has actually received a reverse-engineered PC port of the game known as Phantom Edition that uses the game data from the PlayStation version and presents a massively enhanced version of the game. Ultra-wide aspect ratios are supported, you get uncapped frame rates, improved draw distance, and plenty of other enhancements. It's all here. It's an amazing conversion of a classic, and since it relies on the user to supply the PlayStation game data, it's perfectly legal. Which got me thinking, I'd love to see games like this brought over properly to modern consoles. The budget necessary to pull this off doesn't seem like it should be that prohibitive, and this sort of release of classic games might actually get some serious attention. Who am I kidding? The likelihood of that actually happening is slim to none, right? But a man can dream. Either way, do check out Phantom Edition on the PC. It's free and you can use your very own original copy of WipEout if you'd like. So that's kind of where we're at right now. WipEout and WipEout 3 are indeed available on the Xbox, but I don't really think it's a great way to enjoy them. And after digging into the whole LLS Games thing, they probably shouldn't even be there in the first place. There's so little information out there though, it's difficult to tell what LLS Games even is. I couldn't find any private way to contact them. Perhaps it's just a fan that loves classic PS1 racing games and wanted to bring them to modern systems? Who knows? In the current form though, it's basically just a generic emulation experience with changes that are all for the worse. I mean, the WipEout series is known for its style and iconography, so to have a logo like this feels both insulting yet hilarious. There's other, better ways to enjoy these games today, and I recommend taking a look at those methods instead. But that's going to do it for this video. I know it's a bit of a weird one, but I was curious about these releases given how much I enjoy the series. And now we have a better idea as to what they actually offer. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.